In this video, we're going to talk about the main thing that I see that causes beginners to fail when they get into this, and that is accepting a bad job and making no money. So I'm going to explain how to make sure that you don't get screwed over by a business in high ticket and make sure that you land legitimate roles on your first try. Now, I've talked to plenty of people. This is a common thing that happens to people. They will buy into someone else's program. They'll get placed into a job, and the job will tell them beforehand, hey, you're going to make all this money. You're going to make 10K, you're going to make 15K a month. And then when people get in there, they find out, oh, they just lied to me. I'm not making any money. And having that experience makes people bitter, right? Then they get pissed off, and that's understandable, right? Because if you get screwed over on your first try, you might give up entirely. You're going to be pretty unhappy. And what will happen is people have this bad experience and then they just believe, oh, all high ticket sales jobs are like this. It's all bullshit, right? Now, what most people will do is they're going to try to get into this and they're going to just accept a sales job without doing any research on the business. So they don't ask any questions on the interview. They just get offered a job and they're like, oh, okay, I'll take it. People do this in all industries though, so not just high ticket. And an example outside of the internet space is real estate. So people will see someone making lots of money in real estate. So let's say it's like a top agent in a big city. He's bringing home $1 million a year or whatever. And they think, oh, I'm going to do that. I can make a ton of money in real estate sales because I saw this one guy doing it. But then they get into it and they realize, oh, most real estate agents, like 90% of them, don't make any money at all. And then they also find out that doing real estate is an extremely inefficient grind. The guy who's making all that money, he's probably been doing it for like 10, 15 years, and he's had to build tons of connections over years and years. And even though he's bringing home that money, most people who've been doing real estate just as long as him don't make anything close to that amount. And that guy literally works 16 plus hours a day, 7 days a week, sleeps in his office, and has no life. I know people like that, literally. So how do you prevent this in high ticket and make sure that you get into a real high paying sales job and you don't end up like that guy or any of the people I mentioned before? What you want to do first, specifically in high ticket, is just look at what the other closers are making in the job that you're interviewing for. If they have a sales team, this is the first place I would go. What are the other salespeople making? So if they have other closers, you just ask them on the interview, what is your top closer making every month? What is your bottom closer making every month? These are completely legitimate questions to ask on interviews, just no one asks them. Is everyone on the team making 8 to 12K a month? Then that is probably what you will be able to make, because you have some data that is happening for other people in this exact role that you are about to accept. Next, you want to try and verify that the product that they're selling is legit and the market is buying it, which means they have a proven concept. People are already buying this. Sales are already happening. If you want to come into a closer job and start making money fast, you want to come into a business that has a proven concept. You don't want to be a closer for a business owner who had some wild idea and he just started this business last Tuesday and he's not making any sales at all. Run away. And more clearly, what you don't want to do is get into a job where the person hiring you is promising you all this amazing money that you can make, but they have no results to back up that claim. And another very common thing in some high ticket businesses, the ones that suck, is they're just trying to get a business off the ground, basically. This is most businesses you see on Instagram. You can go on Instagram and just see countless people that are trying to start coaching businesses, agencies, whatever. So in any of these examples, most of these people don't want to do the work, or they didn't realize how much work it was going to be. So they don't want to do the work to build traffic, lead generation systems, do the marketing, post content every day to make sure that they always have sales calls on the calendar, because that takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of work. And most people are lazy and they don't want to do that. And what they're going to do instead next is they're going to be like, oh, this is a lot of work. Let me just hire a salesperson I don't have to pay to do the work that I don't want to do. A salesperson, right? And then you're going to get on the call with this dumbass and they're going to be like, oh, hey man, they're going to try to sell you on some dream, so you'll accept this shitty job. And they'll be like, dude, we're about to make all this money. We're not making any money yet, but we're about to, this product is amazing. You can be the first guy in. But what they aren't telling you is that they haven't made any sales. or they barely make any sales ever, and no one is scheduling sales calls with them. And they're going to have you doing outbound cold calls and outbound DMs all day, and you have to try to sell this product to a ton of people who have no idea who you are. So if they tell you, hey, here's this great opportunity, you can make a ton of money, but they can't show you that, run. The punchline of this video is that you can make a lot of money in high ticket sales if you just get into the right spot and avoid the bad ones. And the way that you do that is by only accepting jobs with the legitimate businesses that are already making money, which again means that they have a good product that people are already buying. They have a proven concept. Now, this next example is going to have some nuance to it, but it's still important. Does the role that you're interviewing for have a high turnover rate of salespeople? Now, sales in general has a high turnover rate, but there are different reasons for that. One reason that's very common is most people suck. So they don't make a sale for a day or two and then they just quit. When like the very next day or the very next week, they would have had a ton of sales. That's just sales in general. But you also want to make sure that people aren't turning over all the time because it's the business, because the business sucks. And that can really only be determined specific role to role. So you just have to look at the specific role that you're interviewing for. And if it has a high turnover rate of salespeople, you just want to ask them why. Ask about that, right? So you just want to ask them on the interview. Is it because the people suck or does your product suck? And you have to ask specific questions to get this information, which I mentioned earlier. Ask them about the sales team. Ask them about the product, right? That's how you verify these things. And you can also ask them other things. The main questions I always tell you guys to ask: how much money do you make every month? How much revenue are you doing every month? If it's a lot, good. If they bullshit you or they give you or they won't give you a straight answer, eject. Red flags. Next, you also want to look at what all goes into this role, like lifestyle wise. So what is your daily life going to look like when you're in this job? What are the daily actions they want you to be doing? Sales is very repetitive sometimes. So you probably want to know what those actions are going to be that you're going to be doing every day. Are you working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week? It's probably not a good role. But if you're willing to put in that amount of time, you should just go and start a business, make lots of money, you know? But if you're set on doing high ticket sales, there's plenty of sales roles where you can make 10K a month and more and not work 100 plus hours a week. And what you want to do, again, is just look at the daily actions of these salespeople. Are these salespeople taking calls that are put onto their calendar for them and their only job is to close the sales, work the pipeline, things like this? Or are they expected to cold call hundreds of people a day, send tons of cold outreach messages a day and close those leads? Maybe not what you were looking for. And you can verify all of this just by asking them on the interview. And another underrated one, in my opinion, is the management and support that's in place at this role. If you have a legitimate, knowledgeable sales manager who used to close, that's a huge asset for you. So if you need something, is there someone there to support you basically? If there is, that is great. Or are they just throwing you to the wolves and there's no sales manager and the business is a mess with no processes or systems in place? That's bad. They're not setting you up for success. So if you just look at the things that I mentioned in this video, you're almost guaranteeing that you don't end up in a bad sales role or a bad sales experience, and you can end up in a good one like the one that everyone promises you. But the things I mentioned in this video, no one looks into these things. They just go on interviews. They're like, oh, I got a call back for this interview. Let me go on. They offered me the job. I guess I'll take it. And then they get in there. And obviously the interviewer didn't tell them, hey, this is going to suck. And it sucks. And they get upset and they quit. So just follow what I said in this video. The main thing to summarize in this video is you just want to look at all aspects of the role. You need to be very business-like when you do this, you know? So what are the other salespeople in the role making? What are they doing each day? If you're the only salesperson that they're hiring and there's no team to look at, ask them, what are my daily actions and tasks going to be specifically, right? How much money do you make? How many calls do you have on the calendar? How do you generate leads? Where are they coming from? These types of things. Don't just blindly believe something without looking into that role first or finding more about it. High ticket sales legitimately changed my life. I don't know where I'd be without it. And there are tons of people making a ton of money doing this. And you can be one of them too. You just need to find the right role when you start. That's the end of the video. If you want my help getting a closer role or a setter role, go to the links in the description. Until next time.